Hello everybody, this is Marco Has a Plan. I'm Marco, and today I'm going to show you how to use Docker Compose to get Apache Guacamole up and running. As you can see, this is Docker Compose. If you do not, this is Apache Guacamole, sorry. If you do not know how to, what it does, then just go to the website. I'm not going to tell you right now because I wanted to get this video done as fast as possible. Um, On the website, you have a documentation section where you can find the manual, and in the manual, there's a separate section for installing Guacamole with Docker. But the way it is described here is with three separate Docker containers that are basically linked together. And what I want to do, and what I guess many people want to do, or some people want to do, is to use Docker Compose. And you can get information out of here to compile your own Docker Compose. But there are some things you have to really, yeah, you have to think about, you have to try. And it took me a few tries to get it right. And so today we're going to just get it up and running. And so what I have here after the behind this connection is a completely clean install of Docker. So let me just use my super secure admin one user and my super secure admin one password um, to log in. And as you can see, this is a completely fresh install of Ubuntu 24.04.1 LTS. So there's nothing has been done to this server. There's only SSH installed, and I have given it an IP address. And I have basically installed all the updates. But there's no Docker on here, there's no Guacamole on here, there's nothing on here. And so what we have to do first is we have to basically install Docker. And if you go to our browser, and we can go to Docker Docs, and in Docker Docs they basically have a complete manual on how to install the Docker engine on Ubuntu. And so if you scroll down here, we have our install using the apt repository section. And now all we have to do is basically, I'm going to just copy this section, go over to my virtual machine and paste everything in. And now it wants my super secret password. So we didn't have to do anything here, as you can see. Let's go over and copy the second part. Just paste it in here. And the third thing we have to do is actually do this, paste that, and hit enter. Yes. Okay, now Docker should be installed, and they give you a little hello world thing that you can basically run. Now Docker is unable to find the container. or the image, so it downloads it. And yeah, hello world from Docker, blah, 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 blah. So Docker is basically running. So after we have Docker and now also Docker Compose installed, we can actually go on and create our Docker Compose. So I usually create a Docker folder in the apt directory. So this is what I'm going to do now. So we're going to go cd apt and we're going to go mkdir Docker. Sorry, of course we need sudo. And we're going to go cd Docker and sudo mkdir Guacamole. Now we go cd Guacamole. And now we can basically create our Docker Compose file. So I'm going to go sudo b docker compose.yml. So press I to go into insert mode. And now let's just build this Docker file. So we use version 3, and we say services. So we have 3 services. Our first service is guacd. Our second service is db, and our third service is Guacamole. So Guacamole is the web front end, like the thing you actually see if you open Guacamole in the browser. That is basically provided by the Guacamole container that is running later on, or the Guacamole service. The second thing is guacd. Guacd is the part of this installation that actually creates the connection to your endpoint. So basically, Guacamole connects to guacd. Guacd connects to or uses RDP, SSH, whatever to connect to an endpoint. And DB, of course, is our database that stores our users. So it stores our user configurations and our connection configurations. And so what we need for everything is an image. And so let's go to guacd. Let me just copy this in or paste it in. This is our image for guacd. Now for DB, we use MySQL. And for Guacamole, we use guacamole. So let's make this a little more beautiful and create an empty line between our services. And also what we want to do, we want to say that these containers I'm going to get restarted, like when the server restarts, unless they have been stopped before. So let's say restart unless stopped, restart unless stopped, and restart unless stopped. And with guacd, we're already done. So guacd, this configuration is enough to get it up and running. But for db, we need a few environment variables. Because we need MySQL underscore root underscore password. And we're going to call it just root pw. And what we also need is a MySQL database. And we are going to call this Guacamole DB. What we also need is a MySQL user, which we are going to call Guacamole user. And we need a MySQL password, which will be Guacamole, which is good enough for this demonstration. And now, since we have these credentials in the DB service, we also need it in the Guacamole service. So let's go on and say environment. And let's just say MySQL hostname, which will be DB, since our service is called DB. And also we want our MySQL database. Which of course will be Guacamole DB. Our MySQL user. Which will be Guacamole user. And our MySQL password, which is going to be Guacamole. So, okay. Another environment variable we need here is we need our guacd hostname, which would just be guacd, because we called our service this way. And what else do we need? We need for Guacamole, of course. Since Guacamole needs guacd to work and also needs MySQL to work, basically these two servers, Guacamole is dependent on guacd and DB. So we need to add a depends on, and it depends on guacd. And DB. And since Guacamole actually creates the web interface, we want to we want to connect to the web interface, it needs to offer a port. So you have to add ports, and we go with 8080, 8080. So the internal 8080, I guess, has to be static. You can use whatever you want here, but later in the tutorial, you have to remember that. So this should be almost everything, but we still need something else because our MySQL installation, our database, has to store data. And so we are going to mount a volume. So volumes. And I'm just going to paste it in from over here. So we created up Docker Guacamole, and now we get a MySQL folder, and that basically connects to varlib MySQL inside of our container. So we can exit this and we can write and quit. We can do an ls-l, and so you see that we have our Docker Compose YML file here. And so the next thing we do is we just say sudo, just see what happens. So we go sudo docker compose and up. And let's see what happens. So since we use Docker Compose up and not Docker Compose up dash D, which detaches, we actually get console output from our containers. So now that it seems that it has loaded completely, let's go back to our browser and open a new tab and go 10.110.16.19. You have to use port 8080, of course, and something else. You have to go to actually Guacamole. Now, if we start this, we get an error. And if we go back to our console window, that we can see that it tried to do a select, and then we get another information calls Java SQL blah 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 table guacamole db guacamole user does not exist. And yes, it does not exist because we only created a database, and guacamole has no function of um, checking the database and creating tables and stuff like that automatically. You have to do this manually. So we're going to go Control C to stop our services. And now let's just go back to our Guacamole Docker manual, because in there you have, right, and initial whatever, doing something with a database. Initialization of the MySQL database. You also have another one for PostgreSQL. We use MySQL in this instance. So all you have to do is basically run this script. So let's copy this, go back to our virtual machine, and we also use sudo and paste this in and say enter. And now you get a nice arrow that says permission denied. And this is something where I had to do some research and do some finagling. But at some point, I figured out how to get it to work, because this initdb SQL file is not as important right now. But when we are done, we can delete it. So we do not have to worry much about it. So I'm going to do an ls on this my directory. You can see I have my Docker Compose. I have my SQL folder has been created with the database. And now I'm going to create a new folder, I call it script. And I go to cd script. And now I'm going to create this file. So I'm going to touch our init, what's it called? Init db.sql. I have to do sudo. So now I have my file in here. And now what I have to do is I have to actually set permissions so that everybody can write to these files. So I can do sudo chmod. Now it's, might be 666 init db SQL. So if we go ls-l again, we can see everybody can write to this file. And if we now go and run our script again, now it takes longer because now we can do like get init db SQL. And now we can see there's actually stuff in there. So the next step is we have our scripts, but we have to get our script into our database container because we need to get this data into our database. And so what we can do now is we can go cd one more up and go to sudo v docker compose. So we are going to edit our Docker Compose file, and we are going to add another mount. So I just copy this and paste this here because I want to have my script folder mounted just to the root folder or the root directory of my container. Let's save this, and now let's just run sudo docker compose up. And now let's run it with -d, so it will detach, which means that it will basically run in the background and we are free to do other stuff. Yep. Sorry. Docker. Okay. Now our instance is started, and our instances have started, our containers have started, and we will still get the same error right now. But what we have to do is we can actually go into our container right now. So let's just go. We could just take a look. Like go sudo docker ps. And yeah, we can see even over there, we can see our container guacamole-db-1 has started, and we can see that our container guacamole- somewhere it says it. Yeah, our guacamole-db-1 is running. So we can basically now go into the create a shell inside of that container and run commands in that container. And so I'm going to just copy this from here and paste it in. So we go sudo docker container exit exec it guacamole db1 and bin shell. So we basically start bin shell inside of guacamole db1. And we do it interactively. So we say enter, and now we are actually inside of our container. And now what we want to do is we want to basically get everything. Let me just show you that if we go cd script ls, that our initDB SQL SQL file is now inside of the container. It's available inside of the container. And what we can do now is we can just run everything in there inside of our database. Our database exists. We do not have to create our database. That is Docker done for us. Or not Docker has done it, but the inner workings of MySQL in Docker have done that. And so we are inside of script folder, so we can go and we can just run this. So we can connect to our Guacamole DB and basically put our initDB SQL inside of there. So run everything in there. So we do enter. Now it wants a password. The password is our, since we use root, our root password for MySQL, which in our instance, as we stated it in our Docker Compose file, is root pw. Okay, seems to have worked. We can do Control C. No, not Control C. We can say exit. Right. We can say exit, and we are now back to our Ubuntu machine. We can say let's just go down. Okay. And we can say Docker Compose up D. Okay, now Docker Compose is running again, and since now we should have a working filled database with tables and all of that stuff, we should be able to connect to Apache Guacamole. So let's go back to our browser and let's just refresh that page. And as you can see, we have a seemingly working Apache Guacamole login window. Now the login, default login for Apache Guacamole is guacadmin with the password guacadmin. So guacadmin with the password guacadmin. Okay. So now we have basically our connection windows. No connections have been set up. But we can do this right now. And we can go completely meta and use Guacamole running in Docker on a virtual machine to actually connect to that virtual machine. So we can basically create our own chicken and egg problem here. So you can go as an admin, you can go to settings and connections, and then you can create a new connection. We just name our new connection since our server call is called Ubuntu 1. We just call it Ubuntu 1. Our location stays root. Our protocol is going to be SSH. No concurrency limits, no load balancing. Be aware, do not put your host name of your machine in Guacamole proxy parameters. This normally, at least for what I have experienced, stays empty. This is where you actually put your connection to your target system. And that for us is 10.110.16.19. And we can also directly set our username, which is be admin1, and our password, which was admin1. So scroll all the way down, click save, and now we can basically go back to our home page and click Ubuntu. It's waiting for a response, and there we are. And so now we are inside of our Ubuntu system that we use to create this Docker container. And I can even show you because we can go sudo docker ps admin1. And as you can see, our Docker containers are running. And so what I can do now is a funny thing about, you can basically just go home, create other connections, use other connections, and then come back to the connection you already had. So this is it for today. just change it up. So yeah, that is everything for today. I had a few stumbles in there. I'm sorry for that. I just wanted to get this video out as fast as possible and to get the information in there. I hope all the information is everything you need. This is just to get you started. Like, okay, you can log into Guacamole, you can create a SSH session, but there's a lot of more stuff needed to actually get it working. If you want to have LDAP authentication, if you want to use session recording properly, if you want to use the file transfer functionality of the remote desktop protocol, that everything of that is not configured right now. There is some more configuration necessary. Post a comment if you want to have another video where I explain all that configuration. I'm only going to do this video if there's a one for it. So if you made it to here, thanks for watching. I hope it helps you, and I say goodbye.